All right, so the biggest pieces of news involve some Cup Series rides that have been finalized. And very first and foremost is this guy, Ryan Preece, picking up his ride for next year. Kroger going to move over to RFK Racing, and Ryan Preece will drive the number 60 full-time, leasing one of the Rick Ware Racing charters.
Yeah, this is the worst kept secret in stock car racing. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad they had some fun on the internet with Bob Pockris as well, who's been sniffing this out for months and months. But Ryan Preece to a RFK, it feels a lot like eating Taco Bell in Breezewood, Pennsylvania, if you know where that is, Elliot. Like, I think I know what I'm going to get, but it could be an absolute disaster and leave you sitting on a shitter in a West Virginia truck stop for about 2.5 hours. So like we know this guy, 2 Xfinity Series wins, 2 Truck Series wins in his career, did jump up to 5 top 10s from just 1 a season ago, but the speed was never there like it was in 2023 when we saw him at tracks like Martinsville, where he led over 100 laps. He had a pole the year prior as well. The equipment should be an upgrade for him, so I'm looking at him at tracks like the Ville, Bristol, Loudon. That's probably where you're playing him if you're going to be playing him in DFS or if you're going to be betting him. I will miss that RWR 15 shit box, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's unclear whether they will run the 15 or 51 or whatever number full-time there. But honestly, I feel the same way as I did when Preece first got the SHR ride, because when that happened, we didn't know that SHR was really on this gigantic downfall that would lead to them no longer existing as a team. It's a big get, to keep that relationship with Kroger that he had in the extra JTG Doherty car, bring that over to RFK. Kroger also will sponsor the 6 and 17 at times throughout the year and will be the primary sponsor. I'm not sure if it's going to be all of the races or just a selected few, but I imagine it'll look a lot like we've seen with Stenhouse's 47 car. It's going to be a Kroger car, but you're going to see a lot of different brands on there, which has kept it fun. We've seen anything from a Cheerios car to a Minute Rice car, Country Crock Butter, anything you could think of. So good for Ryan Preece. And the equipment definitely is going to be better. And another guy hopping in some pretty good equipment as well. Riley Herbst to 2311, going to race the Monster Energy number 35 car. We're not entirely sure whether it's going to be chartered or not because we don't know what's going to happen with 2311 in front row. We know they are going to race, which we'll talk a little bit about later. He's going to bring along his crew chief, Davin Restivo from Stewart Haas Racing. And again, another one where you got to have the sponsorship behind you, regardless of how you've been on the racetrack. But for Riley Herbst, definitely bringing some momentum into this 35 car as the winner at Phoenix for Xfinity.
Yeah, man, like Riley Herbst, 3 wins in 5 Xfinity seasons, running in top-tier equipment full-time, so not great. However, he did have some sick-ass drives this past season, like at Indy, where him, Custer, Almirola racing very hard with each other. That was a great sight. And then at Phoenix, as you kind of alluded to as well, Elliot, everyone brought their best stuff that day. I was heavy on Custer. You were heavy on Gator. And hey, Riley ends up coming out with the W, kind of a Ross Chastain-esque run there for him. Does have 8 starts in the next-gen era, though, for the Cup Series. 2 top 10s, 10th and 9th, both at super speedways. Overall, though, like, if you're Corey Heim or you're Ryan Truex, this feels like a lot like the senior on the football team dating the girl next door while you're kind of spending your Friday night smoking dope under the bleachers. And I don't know. Like, I feel slighted for those guys who I feel like are more talented drivers, but I do like Riley Herbst and the momentum. He seems like a really fun guy from everything I've heard. It seems like he's great with sponsors as well. Monster seems to like him quite a bit, and his family and their supporter behind him. So I get why the decision was made. I am rooting for him because I think it's going to be a sick story, but definitely a slap in the fucking face for Corey Heim and Ryan Truex a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this sport is money will take you a long way, but at least we have seen, it was Herbst's probably best season in Xfinity last year that brought him to this. Shout out to Monster, going to heavily sponsor 3 cars in the Cup Series now.
Well, they don't have someone they don't have someone in the Xfinity or the Truck Series they need to sponsor now, if you catch my drift there.
Yeah, good point. They're not throwing any more money at the Haley Deegans of the world. I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains for Herbst because Preece at least is a guy who's had Cup Series experience, who's had a few years under his belt there. Herbst could be good on the super speedways. I know he's run really well. He was in the 36 for front row. I think he got a few starts in a year or two ago, ran well. But other than that, I mean, it's really going to be tough. If the over-under is at half a win, there's no chance in hell I'm taking the over.
I mean, if there's a over-under that gets dropped as a season win total for Herbst, just like don't run, don't walk, run. Like run, get the under. I don't care if I have to pay like minus 300. I will take the under. But I mean, you never know. Something crazy could happen. He is good at super speedways, and look out for tracks like Las Vegas, Phoenix. You kind of know which ones here. Texas, he's a good at Texas. Kind of these higher speed intermediate tracks are really where he makes his hay. So I'm excited to see it. But yeah, like we're probably expecting Tyler Reddick to probably be a top 8 driver again. Bubba Wallace be on the fringe of playoffs, and Herbst like top 23, top 25 would be like kind of an achievement, honestly. So yeah, good on him though. Like I am happy to hear this, and just kind of weird timing though with everything going on in the NASCAR universe, Elliot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll get to some of those other happenings with a couple other silly season fill-ins that we have. Daniel Hemric going to drop down from the Cup Series to the number 19 Napa truck. Christian Eckes drove this for McAnally-Hilgemann Racing, Bill McAnally Racing, whatever you want to call it. Eckes drove this truck. Will be going up to Xfinity with Colleague, ironically enough. Hemric dropping back down to the trucks. And this is the kind of thing that we want to see drivers like this do. Hemric was able to work his way up the ladder. He's had to kind of thread the needle a little bit. Went full-time Cup, down to full-time Xfinity, back to full-time Cup, now all the way back to the trucks. At the end of the day, it's a driver who knows what he's doing in a race car, really wanting to get in good equipment, show that he can win, which has been a problem for him other than one notable race in Phoenix a couple of years ago, show that he can win and be dominant and eventually continue his racing career in whatever capacity. I mean, he could certainly be a truck guy for a few years and do really well, but regardless, an exciting move for a guy like Hemric to be in arguably one of the best 2, 3, 4, 5 trucks in the garage.
This is a bettor's dream, Elliot. When we have these veteran, experienced drivers who can swallow their freaking pride a little bit and head down to a lower series, like when JHN dropped down, he was a great driver to bet on. That was before I feel like I was doing a lot of truck and Xfinity Series betting on the Reggie, but everyone I know was cashing JHN tickets, it feels like, for years and upon years. We did the same this past year with Eric Almirola. So, yeah, I'm going to be on the lookout for him heavily. I think this sick-ass accent Texas native is going to be very good in the truck series. Had 23.2 average finish this past year in Cup. I know it's not great, but when you think of the equipment he is in, that was still better than Zane Smith, Haley, Corey LaJoie, Harrison Burton, and only like 0.1 of a position worse than Eric Jones. He is the 2021 Xfinity Series champion. What was hot money that year? 15 top 5s in 33 Xfinity Series races that year. Only Chandler Smith, Sheldon Creed had more this past year than that. So I think coming all the way back down to trucks, where he did run full-time in 2015 and 2016, that was with NTS Motorsports and Brad Keselowski Racing. 30 top 10s in 46 races during that span, Elliot. That means if more weeks than not you were betting the top 5 number, you were cashing out for the season. That's a positive EV. My biggest question for him now dropping back down, that was 2016, 2017, Elliot. We're 7 years removed from there. Can he be aggressive enough to win a shit ton there? Because as we know from the guy who was driving this truck the year before, you got to be aggressive to get dubs in the truck series.
Yeah, you definitely do. I certainly don't think it's going to be a ridiculous amount of wins. I don't think you're going to see a Corey Heim-esque win total or JHN-esque win total out of the 19, but 2-3 wins and really hitting those top 5 numbers more weeks than not is definitely going to make Hemric really exciting to bet on in this truck. A guy who maybe won't be so exciting to bet on, but is notable to mention as well, the Hour Motorsports number 5 next year in Xfinity, going to be driven by Kris Wright, Pittsburgh native, FNB Corp, Pittsburgh company as well. So it's got the nice local ties there. But the racing ties, maybe not the best. Another one of those guys that, he's had some experience, but hasn't been able to run a full season, I don't think, in any of the top 3 series. Had some truck starts, had a fair bit of ARCA starts, probably full-time there. A guy like Kris Wright, not necessarily someone that leaves a lot of room to make some money on, I don't think, in the betting market.
Yeah, he's a Yinzer. He's a PA boy. Like the story, appreciate what he's done. But man, the fast Pasta family buried this guy on the internet this week, Elliot. I don't know a ton about Kris Wright, but I know it hasn't been great on the track in NASCAR. Like you said, has never ran full time with anyone, so I think that doesn't help him at all. No top 10s, though, in 47 Truck Series races or 16 Xfinity Series starts. 28.1 average finish in Xfinity. That's running for teams like Sam Hunt, Jerry Brown, like not the worst teams. 25.6 Truck Series average running finish, running for our guy Al Neese, Young Motorsports, and then most recently Tricon this past year where he had a couple starts for them as well. So I don't know. It's tough. Like I'm gonna hold the faith. I'm gonna hold the faith that, again, we got to support our fellow Yinzers, Elliot. But yeah, I feel bad for Alfredo, and I guess that's the business though. And shout out FNB, we appreciate you. Thanks for getting this kid a ride, man.
Yeah, and that's the plus too. Seeing companies invest in drivers like that, it'll give them a chance because equipment that we saw Alfredo have some pretty decent runs in at times. So if Kris Wright is a driver that can hack into the top 3 series in NASCAR, we're going to see it this year. And for Alfredo, if he still has dude wipes behind him or any of some of that other funding, I'm sure he'll land somewhere, even if it's a part-time deal, which I know is not what a guy like Alfredo wants. He should be able to find a landing spot somewhere for at least a couple of races.
Could you imagine Alfredo in a decent truck? Like, he doesn't need a world-stopping truck. Give him a decent truck. I don't know how many of those are still available, but oh man, I'm ready.